And I'm live. Excellent. Whew. Hello, everyone. Just need a sip of water. It's been quite a day. Merry Christmas. Who got here first? Nareem and the Dyes. Hello, hello, Nareem and Keely and all the Dye family. Hello, Kay. Hello, Fiona, Peter and Karen. Lovely to see you. Enjoy your Christmas party, Peter and Karen. Sorry you couldn't hang out with us. Hello, Craig and Karen and Joan. You'll see who else is there before I launch into things. Hello, Jeff and Sue. Michael, Merry Christmas. How lovely to have you here. How wonderful. We're grateful that you pop in every now and again. It's always lovely to hear from you. Hello, David. Thanks, Fiona. Got to have a bit of sparkle, a bit of blingy earrings. It's about as good as I get for Christmas. I don't wear a silly hat, so we tried that once and it didn't really work. Anyway, Merry Christmas, everyone. We have had quite an enormous day already. You'll see, that side, you'll see behind me in the background a gingerbread house and a gingerbread forest. I've had 6 little girls and their various adult drivers here making gingerbread houses all day. It was so much fun, and we had them all hepped up on sugar by the end of the day. And we've been running. Gingerbread house making went very well, thank you, Sue and Daryl. Yes, but I've been running around like a mad thing ever since. And we just got back from the dog walk, and then I was running around getting this all set up, and then poured their wine already. I've got Peter and Nina and Richard and Jill here live today, and Tallulah and Polly, who's there. There's Polly. Hi, Polly. She hasn't had her dinner yet, so she's but she doesn't want to miss out on drinks with Kate, so she'll have dinner later. Hello, Jackie and Zach and Hannah. Lovely to see you guys. So let's get some wine in the glass, okay? 2021 Pinot Noir, the Moorooduc McIntyre, or as we call it for short, the Duck. So this is the last of the 3 single vineyard releases that we've been sort of going through over the last little while. We are decanting, Craig. Good question. I have my decanter. I have my wine. Going to pop it in the decanter. Doesn't need to go in too roughly. Doesn't need to go in any time before you're going to drink it. But I just think this wine, because it's young, because it, even though it's quite pale in colour and it has a lot of red fruit to it, it's quite closed. And I think that one of the mistakes that some people have made when sort of looking at this wine quickly and not giving it time is thinking that it is light and therefore less serious than some of our other Duck Pinots, which couldn't be further from the truth. It does have this beautiful colour, okay, very ruby, quite translucent. You can see the light through it beautifully. There we go. That's as much of a decanter as it needs. I agree, Kay. I think this wine is just beautiful and we love it a lot. So gorgeous colour. Cheers, everyone. And that quick little decant, cheers. That quick little decant has brought out a lot of the spice in the wine, has brought out that lovely red cherry. There's almost a Morello cherry kind of character underneath the red cherry. So I think it's a mistake to think that this wine it comes from a cool vintage, but because of that cool vintage and small crop levels, we've got, oh no, Shell, your in-house chef's out tonight at a Christmas party, so it's takeout porcini pizza for you. Well, you're a step ahead of our group, and it's very rude. They've opened a packet of chips on their table and put it in a bowl and haven't brought me a little bowl of chips, which is very sad. No, I did put it there for you, but a little bowl, one or two for me would be nice. Yeah. Thank you. a celebratory a celebratory chip. Because we didn't get round to doing the duck or the venison tonight either, celebratory chip. Because we didn't get round to doing the duck or the venison tonight either, So, Michael, it seems to darken in the glass, but maybe I'm changing my perception as I taste it. Yeah, I think that when you taste it, it tastes darker than it looks, and then it looks darker because it tastes more profound, if that makes sense. Nina, you're a doll. Thank you. Is the rest of your team coming in, or are they too busy? Bit busy. All right, cool. Well, we've got the important people in the room, so that's the best thing. It might. Oh, Craig, I was just about to say that. You always preempt me. It's quite uncanny. So a lot of the spice in this wine is quite Christmassy. There's almost a cinnamony, nutmeg. There's a bit of cumin and coriander in there, but there's also a bit of Chinese five spice. And what I was starting to say is, because it was a cool vintage and it was a small crop, there's lots of concentration in the flavour, but it oh dear, we're having a dog fight over chips over here. Polly, don't kill the small dog. Not nice. Sorry, Tallulah. She's nasty about chips. Oh dear, poor little dog. Polly's looks very dark in the YouTube image. Yeah, well, Shell will be very disappointed with me, but because I was running so late, I haven't got my light on, so I'm just relying on the downlights in the room and the natural light outside. It's not too bad outside, but it's not a very bright day, so I think that does make it look darker. Also, the black of the fireplace behind me, and also it doesn't really show its translucency with the green, but when I'm looking at it with the light behind it, it looks bright and it looks translucent. Really, Polly's come to back at me now. But yes, it does have some nice depth of colour, and those flavours and that colour has developed really slowly over a long ripening period because of the cool climate, which is yum. Jack, take away here, Peking duck pancakes and steamed pork dumplings. Delicious. I reckon I would be amazed if anyone decided to cook that amazing Chris Manfield dish for tonight. But if you haven't had a crack at that before, and I'm sure some of you already know that cookbook and that recipe, and it is really 90s. When you've got a bit more time and it's not Christmas, maybe over winter, it's a great dish to cook to go with this kind of wine. It's absolutely amazing. Jeremy, I know. Hello, welcome. I thought of you after you raced off, that I should have made sure you had a bottle, but I also forgot to check. I'm sorry. Fiona is having duck as well. Good, Peking duck pancake. Perfect. I think we've got some little samosa-y things to have a bit later, but they take a while to heat up, and then they're moltenly hot when they first come out. So don't burn your mouth on them, Nina, when Pete brings them out. As this wine's opening up, that cherry, it's like, this is going to sound really stupid. These stupid things come into my head. It reminds me of sort of almost dusty Christmas trees. There's a little bit of an earthiness to it. There's that tiny little bit of wild mint or eucalyptus, just on the very edge of perception, which makes me think of Christmas trees a little bit. But then it's got all those lovely spices as well. And we've been obviously playing around with gingerbread today with our gingerbread houses. So that's really incredibly reminiscent of this wine as well, all the spices that go into the gingerbread. Oh, Michael, 20 frog mouths a few feet in front of your second story window. They must be onophiles, and they must want to help you with the duck Pinot. Craig is saying that he's finding it quite delicate with the food. A match would be really hard without affecting the spices. I think to a certain extent that's true, Craig, but I think And that's one of the reasons that I suggested that beetroot mash with the seared venison on top. Duck alone. Yes, Michael, absolutely. If you had some pan-fried duck breast, something like that, I think that a peppery sauce would actually work better with this wine than a chili sauce, or even the sweetness of a Peking duck. The sweetness of the hoisin sauce might fight a little bit with this wine, but I think it's actually got enough. What food are you having with it, Craig? What's Joan whipped up for you guys for tonight? Have you got the whole shebang? I do think it is quite it's a wine that has less grunt to it maybe than some of our previous duck Pinots, but I think it's a lot of intensity of flavour. And I think as it breeds up and as it opens up in the glass, that'll show more. It has enough spine to go with the hoisin. Okay, great, Fiona. That's good to know. I wasn't sure. It is one of those wines that I've had this with Jill's. Something vibrating here. Someone trying to ring me? No. Yeah, that lovely. It keeps coming back every time I sort of stick my nose in it. It's oscillating between the spice and the red cherry. Fiona, that possibly helps. So you guys started a little bit early, did you? Good on you. Oh, Jill, thank you. Jill's brought Polly her food into the dining room so that she can enjoy drinks with Kate and have her dinner at the same time. These dogs have amazing service around here. Joan's on Christmas leave. Just a few nibbles before the venison, cheese and cashews are not working. No, Craig, I think cheese, it needs to be absolutely the right cheese, and I think you're right, probably cashews are not going to work so well with it. But if you've got the venison coming along, then make sure you save a little bit to go with that, because I think it will actually work surprisingly well with that. I think it'll be really yum. Okay, so the Moorooduc McIntyre Pinot. It's a wine that's been on a little bit of a journey over the years, because Pinot Noir, when we first planted it here in the early 1980s, was regarded as a bit of a weird variety to grow in Australia. There were a lot of people who advised us that it wouldn't work at all. And the first Pinot Noir vines that we planted here on this property were not the best clones that we could have planted. So there's been a lot of experimentation here over the years. Richard learnt very quickly by talking to other people who were trying to grow Pinot Noir that the clones that we should be thinking about putting in. Oh, Michael, perfect at 40,000 feet. Yeah, well, look, if we had a little bit more of this wine, I'd certainly be popping it into the submissions for first or business class on Qantas. That would be lovely, but we just have so little of it. It's just, I want to make sure that the people on the ground get to drink it first. So Pinot Noir, we planted some vines in the original planting, but they turned out to not be the right clones. We weren't very happy with the results. They've gone the way of the dodos. We then planted more out in the front vineyard, what we're sort of, for want of a better name, calling the tennis court block now. That also wasn't the best clones. They were clones that came from UC Davis that we were recommended to plant because they grew neatly. They were upright clones and they cropped quite heavily, so you get good tonnage off them, which turns out for Pinot is the worst thing that you can possibly do. I can see Dad's listening very intently, and he may leap over here to add or improve my my story any minute now, or correct me when I get it wrong. Then we planted some more vines down there. Richard, is that they went in first before 1994? The second planting went in, and we put in quite a lot of MV6 then. And we also knew about some of the newer into Australia Dijon clones, and played around with a little bit of that. And then we decided to give up on Cabernet, and Richard cut the tops off all of the Cabernet vines and grafted Pinot Noir onto them. We actually paid someone to do the grafts first of all, but then we had a big storm and most of the grafts blew away. We couldn't afford to get them in to do them again, and Richard used his amazing surgical skills and adapted them to grafting. And we had a beautiful old vine Pinot Noir vineyard that had huge amounts, had a really nice variety of clones kind of mixed up together. So we for probably about 12 to 14 years, that vineyard was where we were getting our best Pinot Noir fruit, or some of our best Pinot Noir fruit from. During that time, the vineyard down there that we planted a little bit before that was maturing, and we were getting better at farming it and all of those things. And Craig is asking, what was the duck vintage that was the light bulb moment? So there was a number of different things that happened to create this wine. And the first thing was Richard started experimenting with wild ferments back in the early 90s. 1996 was his first wild yeast ferment. And so that was the first to making what we thought was more interesting, complex, savoury, textural wine than we made before. So wild ferments was the beginning. And that was the wild ferment Pinot was our sort of reserve Pinot for a few years. And very quickly, Dad realised that he liked the wines much more. Hello, Polly. Yes. Dad realised that he enjoyed the wines made from wild ferment much better than the ones that we used with inoculated yeast. So we ended up doing wild ferments with all of our wines. So that and for a while we called this wine wild yeast, Moorooduc Estate wild yeast Pinot. And then when we were fermenting everything under wild yeast, that didn't make a lot of sense. In 2010, and I think we were making really good Pinot Noir before that, but in 2010, something else happened. We had a few years previous on some other vineyards to grow our fruit capacity, and so our winemaking capacity. And we realised in about 2008 that the fruit from the Robinson vineyard that we were taking was different from the fruit that we were growing here on the McIntyre vineyard, and was also very good in a different way. And so in 2010, we released the 2 single vineyard wines, and that's when the Moorooduc was born, because the Moorooduc McIntyre vineyard wine comes from 100% from our McIntyre vineyard here. We called it the Moorooduc because we were trying to denote it as our Grand Cru vineyard back in the days when we used to sort of talk about Pinot Noir in relation to Burgundy, and how we were kind of aspiring to make wine that was as good as Burgundy, if not the same as Burgundy. We never wanted to make Burgundy-like wine, but we didn't really have a vocabulary here for really high quality Pinot back in the 90s and early noughties so much. And so the Moorooduc was a little homage to the fact that all the Grand Cru vineyards in Burgundy are le or la. So they're the Chambertin, the Romani Conti, La Tâche. In the end, it just shows that the McIntyres are better at making wine than giving wine names, but it's kind of stuck, and we like the name. We call it the duck for short, as I said, and that's only partly because it goes really well with duck as a meat. Okay, so Craig, so the duck vintage that was the light bulb moment. So thank you, Peter. Peter's brought me a little samosa now, which is lovely. I think the first year that we made Pinot Noir that really kind of got us excited about the quality and relates to the level of quality that we're making today, in my mind, was probably 2008. But Dad will probably go further back than that. Richard would go 10. So I thought the 08 was pretty good. Dad thinks that the 2010 was a step up. I think that in the last decade, Pinot Noir has been it's been consistently excellent, the Duck Pinot Noir, but I think it's been getting better almost every year. I'm really excited about the last decade of the Duck Pinot Noir, and I think Jeremy and Richard and I were talking about this the other day. I would be quite confident to say that the 2021 is one of my favourite vintages of Duck Pinot Noir, if not my favourite. It may very well be my favourite. It just depends. I haven't quite decided because it's still really young, so we don't know how it's going to evolve. But at the moment, we think it's pretty special. We think it's pretty delicious. So, Craig, I'm not sure if I totally answered your question, but that's kind of the timeline for Duck Pinot. Fiona, I think the cinnamon notes are coming up really, really nicely now, and sort of cinnamon and cherry kind of all sort of mixed in together. So Michael asking how much Pinot Noir featured in my MW exams, and do I feel that was a strength for you? So it was interesting because obviously I think Pinot Noir is a grape variety that I by choice I drink more Pinot Noir than any other red grape variety. It's a grape variety that I feel most comfortable with from other parts of the world, as well as Burgundy, as well as Australian Pinot Noir. I was very, very fortunate in my tasting exam for the MW the year that I passed. That paper 3, which is the paper that really. So paper 1 is white wine, paper 2 is red wine, and they were pretty good. And I was pretty happy with those. And then I walked into day 3, paper 3, which can be anything. And they'll usually, if they're going to give you table wine again, they'll give you something really classic, like a bracket of Bordeaux's, and you have to kind of nut out which commune, what level we're at, possibly a bracket of Burgundies or, something like that. But often they'll give you sparkling wine, they'll give you maybe rosé, they'll give you maybe dessert wine, sweet wine, and they'll give you fortifieds. So I was all ready to deal with champagne, sparkling wine, rosé, sweet wine. I'd learnt all my different sugar levels for all the different styles of sweet wine in the world. And we walked in, and the way they set it up is you bring your own glasses, and then they send around 12 decanters. And the 12 decanters came around, and the first 8 were all white, pale red wines. And I just went, oh, I reckon we've got a big bracket of Pinot Noir, and it absolutely was. It was 8 different Pinot Noirs, and the question said wines 1 to 8 are made from the same single grape variety and come from 3 different countries, and they're all from the same vintage. Identify the grape variety, identify the vintage giving reasons, identify the countries giving, identify which wines are from which countries. And then there was a quality question as well, which was ace, because it was also the vintage. And I should remember, I should have it seared into my brain. I think it was 2004, Dad, that was the Ladybird vintage Ladybird vintage in Burgundy. And of course, all in Burgundy, they had a Ladybird plague in 2004, and also they had dreadful weather and a lot of disease pressure. So the wines, when they were young, and the better wines from 2004 seem to have actually got better, but when they were young, they had this really distinctive kind of musty bitterness to them, and they stood out really strongly. And I'm sure that's why they chose that vintage and why they put that question together the way that they did, because if you recognise the Burgundies as Burgundy, then they had to be from 2004, and that meant the whole bracket was from 2004. And then there was actually some New Zealand and some American wine in there too. So it was pretty cool. It was pretty fun. But Pinot Noir is an increasingly important grape variety in the world. Burgundy's getting harder and harder to access, more and more expensive. They've been having some difficult vintages with frost at the beginning of the season, so small vintages, and then they've been having hot summers. So dealing with that and the balance of the fruit and getting the fruit not too ripe, picking it at the right time is becoming a challenge. So I think Pinot Noir is harder for people to get their heads around from different parts of the world. But we're really lucky that Australian Pinot Noir is in a golden age at the moment, and we can drink beautiful Australian Pinot Noir without having to worry about anyone else. Michael, will we ever have first growth Pinots in Australia? I don't think, Michael, Australia will ever go down that kind of appellation kind of official system. But I think there will be people who will, as we thank you, as we explore single vineyard sites around the around different Pinot Noir producing areas, and I think Pinot Noir is one of the great varieties that really expresses site. I think that we will have hopefully special vineyards that people get excited about, and I think that we're seeing the thing that's different is that unless you've got a vineyard that multiple people are sourcing fruit from and making wine, and those wines have a consistency of quality from different producers, it's very hard to say that the quality comes from the vineyard rather than from the producer. And so I think that down here on the Mornington Peninsula, the Robinson Vineyard's a very good example of a vineyard that will show site specificity and quality, because there's a number of different people sourcing fruit from the Robinson Vineyard and different people making wine as a Robinson Vineyard Pinot Noir and Robinson Vineyard Chardonnay. So we'll see that sort of difference of approach stylistically from different winemakers, but that vineyard character shining through. And we see that from a few vineyards in McLaren Vale and in Barossa, that growers grow the fruit and sell bits to different people. But no, I don't think we're really going to have a first growth system in Australia, Michael. Oh, good, Jeremy. I got to you now. 21's in your top 2. I think you might need a top 3 super soon. Yeah, absolutely. There's some exciting wine in the pipeline. Jeremy's choosing his favourite children again. Absolutely, Craig. What kind of timeline would you anticipate for this wine? Jeff and Sue want to know. This wine will age really nicely for at least 10 years, probably much longer than that. I think that don't be fooled by the paler colour of the wine. It's got fantastic acid. It's got fantastic tannin structure. The tannins are very present. They're just very velvety. So they're not hard, but there's quite a lot of tannin there. There's really good acid. There's really good fruit intensity and concentration and layers of flavour. And the fact that the wine's changing and getting better in the glass we've been talking now for nearly half an hour, and it's looking better in the glass now than it did when we started, but it keeps changing. That's a really good sign that this wine's going to age very, very well for a long time. I would say I would like to, we'll keep a little bit of this wine and look at it over the years for it, dog willing, about at least 20 years. And we'll see how it's going after that. Want to come back and taste this again in 20 years' time, Richard? Yeah, lots of resveratrol in the wine, so we'll all be good. Craig wants to know, how the samosas, have you burnt your mouths on them yet? The samosas, have you had a go at them? Are they hot? They're hot. They're hot. I'll come back to it. I'll have a chip. Craig wants to know if we've had a Robinson taste off before. Not an official one. I think I've had a couple of the Paringa Robinsons. I can't remember if I think we have put the Dad's actually. You've done a tasting of Paringa Robinson Pinot next to your Robinson Pinot, haven't you? No? Okay. It's something we plan to do. Paringa's only been making a designated single vineyard Robinson Pinot for the last couple of years, I think, or the last couple of releases. So I think that will definitely be talking to Lindsay about doing something like that in the near future. There were a couple of other people making wines that were labelled as Robinson Pinot, but they don't do it anymore. So, yeah, I think it'll be a Moorooduc Paringa event, and I think it'll be definitely worth coming along to. So watch this space. Michael, what drives ability to age, acid or tannin? Great question, Michael. Both, if they're in balance with each other. Also, other things like intensity of fruit concentration, flavour concentration, will also make a wine more able to age. I think, to my mind, a lot of people will taste a young wine and go, oh, it's so tannic. It needs, 10 years in the cellar to be any good. And my argument would be, if a wine is not showing deliciousness at a young age, and young wines can be quite hard work because of their acid and tannin structure, but if they're not showing deliciousness at a young age, then it's probably not, it's certainly not guaranteed, and it's possibly wishful thinking that the wine will be delicious in 5, 10, 15, 20 years' time. I think that the wines that age best are wines that are usually pretty tight but delicious when they're young, that open up, and that have good balance of acid and tannin. So you don't want to have too much acid and not enough tannin. You don't want to have too much tannin and not enough acid. You want the acid and tannin to be in balance with the fruit intensity, and the alcohol needs to be in the right. Lots of different things come together, and I think balance, intensity, length, and complexity are all things that point to quality. Not all quality wines age well, but a wine that is not high quality definitely won't age well. So, and what I mean by that is a really good Sauvignon Blanc isn't going to age particularly well for more than maybe 4 or 5 years, because the wine's made to be fruity and forward, and it's made to drink early, and you lose some of that fruitiness if you age it for too long. A really tight, complex, tannic, acidic wine from one of the first growth estates in Bordeaux will be very difficult to drink as a young wine, but will still show impressiveness of intensity and length and complexity and depth. But that sort of wine really needs a really long time to sit in the cellar before it's at its best. So there's a bit of study, a bit of knowledge about individual wine styles that you need to do to know what's going to age well and what's not. Most Australian wines are made to drink relatively young. A lot of Australian wines are not made to age. I think the best Australian wines, and the Australian wines that I love, are wines that drink well as they're young and also age well. So, and I think age of vines and that kind of thing will also add to a wine's ability to stand the test of time. If you've got old vines, wine tends to age better than wine from young vines because it doesn't have the intensity and complexity. David had a Paringa 2018 Paringa Robinson a few weeks ago. Excellent. It is very good wine. And it's got Lindsay's, it's got the Paringa signature to it as well. So it's different from our Robinson. So I think it's a really special vineyard because of that. Jean, thank you for noticing my earrings. These were made by a friend of mine, Jade Naylan. She made them for my sister's wedding. We were all bridesmaids and we all got a pair, and I think they're gorgeous. They've got I need to give them a bit more of a polish because the silver's quite as sparkly as I'd like it to be. But the beads are gorgeous, and they feel Christmassy to me. I'm not quite sure why, but there's something festive definitely about them. They're all difficult. Fiona, what are you talking? I can't see what you've said. They're all difficult to drink. Hey, what's difficult to drink? Sorry, I can't. I know I probably said something that makes total sense to that comment, but you'll have to help me out there, Fiona. Oh, thank you, anti-Sauvignon Blanc bias. Absolutely. Thank you. Yep, got it. I forgot I even mentioned Sauvignon Blanc before. There are other wine styles that don't age very well. There's other one, but they're most high quality wines. And a lot of people say, "Oh, don't age Italian white wine," but really good Italian white wine does age well. Say, "Oh, don't age Italian white wine," but really good Italian white wine does age well. Piero Pansuave. Have we done that before? Have we? I don't think we've done I think we need to do the Piero Pansuave next year. Been saving that up for you. That wine does really nice things in the cellar for 3 to 5 years, but it's not a 10 to 15 year wine, in my opinion, because you lose too much of the freshness if you age it for too long. What else? Oh, Pinot Gris. Pinot Gris is a really good example of a grape variety that people say can't age. We know that's wrong because we've had some lovely Pinot Gris with age on them. Oh, someone's timer's going off. It's time. If you guys need more wine, I've got some here. Leaky bottle. I know. Well, there's 4 of you over there, so So, are you feeling Christmassy yet, guys? You can drink a grey wax Sauvignon Blanc. Just get it down. You can have it, Craig. No. I think their wine's pretty good, but it's not really to my taste. And I don't mind Sauvignon Blanc from other places in the world. I think I am a bit biased against most New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs because the flavour profile doesn't work for me. But Sancerre, Puy-Fumé are both regions in the Loire where they grow Sauvignon Blanc, which is quite tasty. There's some nice Sauvignon Blancs coming out of the north of Italy. Very Christmassy. It is a good wine for the season, isn't it, Kay? It makes me think of holly and cherries and spices and all things Christmassy. Ho, ho, ho. I think we should have a quick chat about what people are planning to drink for Christmas. Has anyone got a special bottle already picked out for Christmas Day? If it's a surprise and you don't want the rest of the family to know, don't let me spoil your surprise. But I'd be very interested to know what people are drinking. And I'm not fishing for you to tell me that you're drinking Moorooduc Estate wine. I love Sancerre. Good on you, Michael. Sauv Blanc for me is like oysters. Every now and again I try one in a restaurant because they're good quality, but no, too snotty. Well, Fiona, we had that little experience last week. Was it 2 weeks ago? I think it was 2 weeks ago now. I'm losing track of time. Craig and Karen and Sonia and Kay and I went to an oyster bar. 2 of the people there were not big oyster fans and they enjoyed them because they were really fresh. So keep trying oysters, Fiona. But yes, if they're not your thing, then that's all right. Sauvignon Blanc also. I keep trying it. You gotta keep your mind open to these things. A Hurley 2012 Garamond, David. Yum, that would be delicious. I love the Hurley Garamond, and 2012 was a classic Mornington Peninsula Pinot vintage. There you go, Kay. Kay was one of the people converted to oysters by Pearl, so I think that's rather lovely. What's Santa bringing me for Christmas, Craig? Well, I don't know if I've been good enough for Santa to come and bring me a present for Christmas, but my family still loves me, so we are having 2 Christmas dinners. Lunches. We don't have Christmas dinner. That's ridiculous. Christmas lunch on Christmas Day with Mum and Dad and Beck and Gwendal and Madeline. And then we're doing it all again on Boxing Day so that we can celebrate Christmas with Peter and Nina as well. So it just means that we get to have all our favourite Christmas things. Hi, Paul. We have, so on Christmas Day, we're going to be eating brined roasted chicken with all the trimmings. And I reckon we might have, I reckon we'll probably, the Duck 2018 Magnum would be, it'll still look quite tight, Craig. Holly, cut it out. The 2018, Dad, did we have a bottle of 28? Did we have Jeremy, Richard? I don't know if Jeremy's still here. Did we have a Magnum of 2018 Duck Pinot recently? I think we did. I think we had one at the Christmas lunch, and I think it was looking delicious. I think the 16 was the 16 was on point. The 18 was a bit tight, but I reckon if you get it open, Craig, and maybe pop the first half into a decanter and enjoy it over a little bit of time, I think you could have a lot of fun with it. So yeah, I think you could have fun with that. Absolutely. I would say we will definitely be having some older Moorooduc Pinots, probably Duck Pinot, because my brother-in-law Gwendal doesn't drink white wine, and he loves our Pinot. He's French, and he doesn't really want to drink French wine, and he doesn't like Italian wine because he's French. But he loves Moorooduc Estate Pinot Noir. So, and you know, that's all right. We quite like Moorooduc Estate Pinot Noir too. Moorooduc 2011 Robinson, David. Oh, that'll be nice. So yeah, we'll definitely be having some Moorooduc Pinot Noir. I have stashed a little bottle of Krug for us to drink while Maddie's opening her father Christmas presents, because that's a bit of a family tradition for us. We have, what else have we got? We've got some bits and pieces, but I haven't really, we've still got, what's today? Today's Thursday. We're having our work Christmas party tomorrow. We do a brunch so everyone can have a little drink and have a little nibble, but it doesn't kind of cut into their family time, which I think is nice. Breakfast with Blackwell Black Sparkling Shiraz, then meats with the RWT, and the whites with the Magnum that you just purchased. Michael, that sounds pretty good. Jackie Little's thinking about a Robinson Pinot Noir Magnum. It'll be a 15. Did we do the 15s? Might be a 16, might be a 15. Okay. Did we do Magnums in 15? We did. I think they might have been the first ones that we offered, Jackie, back in the day. So that'd be nice. Kay is saying that she'd leave it. It does age slowly in Magnum, 2018 Magnum. Maybe save it for another couple of years if you can bear to. He's got a 2012 Dom, but not sure if you'll open it then or at a New Year's Day lunch with some friends that you haven't seen for ages. Jeremy, yes. Yes, we did. So, Jeremy, do you think Craig and Karen and Joan should drink 2018 Duck Pinot from Magnum? Rockford, not Blackwell. Yes. I knew exactly what you meant, Michael, and I didn't correct 2008 Isabel that we bought to age. It was lovely, but wouldn't do that with 99% of box. Good point, Nareen. If you understand the wine, an individual wine, and you know that it's got the potential to age, then no problem. And I think that's the thing. General rules about aging and what you should drink when and what you should match to what really don't work. If you know a wine really well and you know how it's going to work, then you do what you know and don't listen to any rules. I think, we've had a couple of new people join us. We've got more people on. So hello, welcome, latecomers, whoever you are, lovely to see you. I think this wine's still looking delicious. It's getting sort of more profound for me. The flavours are getting the aromas are getting slightly darker. Michael, lovely to see you. Have a Merry Christmas. I know we're going to be finishing up in